All right, so if you are selecting to do the second option, which is to write and tell a story of your own creation, you'd click this link here. And the first thing you need to do is write your first and last name where it says so here. So I'm going to write my first and last name and then immediately share it with me. Okay, so click share, mfino at slusd.us, Warriors jersey stitch hat, click me, send it to me. Okay. So then you've got 5 questions to answer to plan this story podcast. First will be the name of your podcast story. So this is probably going to be the name of whatever story you come up with. All right. So just type the name of your story. Number 2, other than the opening sound effects, what will you say to open your podcast? What will you say to introduce the story in an interesting way that will hook the listener? So you want to think about how you can introduce the story you're going to tell, right? So at this point, you've already, I'd say write your story first, and then you'll do this part, right? Because you want to know what your story is going to be about, and you want to talk about it in a way that will be like, whoa, the reader hears this, and they're like, wow, I really want to, I got to listen to the story. It sounds really interesting. So, maybe say something that would shock the listener, or, kind of leave it on a cliffhanger, right? A little quick, maybe 3 or 4 sentences that leave on a cliffhanger that leave them wanting to hear the story. Number 3 is where you will write your story. Remember, when it is being read, you want it to engage the listener. So a strong podcast story has a setup, confrontation, and resolution. Right. So if you need extra support on how to do that, there's a link here with a description of how to do this, the 3-act structure, right, with the setup, confrontation, resolution. This is a really nice visual aid, graphic organizer showing you the different parts of a story. They've got a more detailed description here with Star Wars examples to show how it applies. But again, write your story here. Again, you want it to be a story that is exciting, right? So I think mysteries are often a good work well in the format of a podcast. So you could write a mystery, but really anything you want to write about, any story that you think people will want to listen to. Number 4, what kind of sound effects can you use in the context of your story? So throughout the story, things are happening, right? Try to think of ways that you can integrate specific sound effects that you'll be able to find on Soundtrap, the program that you're going to make the podcast, that kind of interest the listener. So if you're doing a mystery or a scary story, you can put sounds in there that apply, right? That will maybe make the listener jump or whatever, right? So think about that after you've written your story. What kind of sound effects can you use in the context of your story? And lastly, number 5, other than the closing sound effects, what will you say to end your podcast? This is where you'll wrap it up, right? You'll maybe quickly summarize what the story was about. Maybe if you have a plan to make a follow-up podcast, right, you could kind of say, oh, something else is, what will happen next or whatever, right? Something to end your podcast, to wrap it up. Again, if you haven't shared with me, mfino at slusd.us, make sure you do that here. Okay, thank you.